Your presence would only bring shame to the family. That's what my dad told me 6 months ago when I said I wanted to come home for Christmas. At the time, he had no idea I was the founder of a company with over 150 employees. To him, I was just some guy glued to a computer screen who would embarrass the family when Ryan, my younger brother, brought home his successful girlfriend to meet everyone. After that conversation, I quietly cut ties with them. But then, 3 months later, my parents showed up at my place. They asked me to get Ryan a job at my company because he's family. Stick around, and I'll tell you exactly how I handled that situation. Hello everyone. My name is David Martinez. I'm 32 and run an artificial intelligence tech company based in Portland, Oregon. Everything I have today, I built from scratch with my own hands. I never had any financial or emotional support from my family. The family drama I'm about to share happened 6 months ago, last Christmas. After years of struggling through the startup grind, my company finally became stable. I've never really liked going home for the holidays. Whether it was Christmas, Thanksgiving, or family birthdays, I always dreaded it. I hated the feeling of being constantly looked down on by my family. They were always comparing me to Ryan, their golden child. Ryan is my younger brother, 4 years younger than me. Since we were kids, he's always been the family's pride. Right now, he works as a sales manager at a company in Seattle, making around $80,000 a year, a decent salary for someone who's 28. And me? I've always been that computer guy with no future in my family's eyes. But if I skipped out on family gatherings, they'd use that as another excuse to criticize me. That's when my mom would throw out lines like, "Your career's already going nowhere, and now you're being heartless too." Or, "Why can't you be more like Ryan? He always cares about the family." They don't know that the so-called little computer company they've always looked down on is doing well. Right now, we have over 150 employees. Last year alone, we made $2 million in revenue. And I'm currently planning to open a second office in Seattle. So why is it that no matter how successful I become, they've never acknowledged it? They brushed it off whenever I tried to share something about my work. Sometimes they even said I was a dreamer or accused me of making things up. After going through that enough times, I just stopped talking about my job altogether. I remember that afternoon vividly. A week before Christmas, I was in my office reviewing documents when my phone rang. When I saw my dad's name on the screen, my stomach tightened, just like it always did. Calls from my family rarely brought good news. Trying to sound upbeat, I picked up and said, "Hey, Dad, I was just about to call you to ask about our Christmas plans this year." There was a heavy sigh on the other end of the line. Then, hesitantly, he said, "David, if possible, maybe don't come home this year." At first, I thought he was just being considerate. Maybe he figured I was too busy with end-of-year work and didn't want me to waste time traveling. Trying to stay calm, I replied, "It's okay, Dad. I can make it work. Family is more important than work. I'll come early and help Mom with the prep like always." There was a long pause after that. I could hear the TV in the background and my mom talking to someone. Then my dad spoke again, this time in a more serious tone. What he said next hit me like a punch to the gut. "Ryan is bringing his girlfriend home to meet the family. She's a manager at a big company in Seattle, very successful and well-respected. Jessica means a lot to him." He paused for a second. I could hear him clear his throat like he was about to say something difficult. Then he continued, his voice cold and direct. "If you're there, it'll just embarrass Ryan. What do you think she'll think of our family if she sees that Ryan's older brother is just some nobody who works with computers and has no future?" Right then, I felt something tighten in my chest. It was hard to breathe. Trying not to shake my voice, I asked, "Are you serious, Dad?" Without hesitation, he replied, "Ernest, you shouldn't come. Ryan is trying to make a good impression on Jessica and her family. Your presence would only bring shame to all of us." And just like that, he hung up. No pause, no goodbye. After the call, I just sat there, the phone still in my hand, staring at the black screen. The office was still filled with my employees chatting and laughing, but everything suddenly felt strangely silent. That afternoon, I drove home on autopilot. Red light, stop. Green light, go. Turn left, turn right. Pull into the garage. Everything felt like it was running on a pre-programmed script. It wasn't until I walked into my apartment and closed the door behind me that I felt the crushing silence settle in. And that sentence kept playing slow and clear like someone had hit repeat on a voice recording. "Your presence would only bring shame to the family." After a while, I sat on the couch, hands trembling as I opened a beer from the fridge. The bitterness of the beer mixed with the bitterness I felt inside. For a moment, I questioned whether I had heard him wrong. But no, every word, every tone had been sharp and cold. There was no slip of the tongue. There is no room for hope. And just like that, memories of all the times I'd been compared to Ryan came flooding back, like old film reels replaying in my head. I remember when I was 15, and Ryan was chosen as the starting forward on the school soccer team. I had joined the computer club. That night at dinner, my parents couldn't stop praising Ryan. My dad said proudly, "That boy of mine is something. He's getting a college scholarship." When I tried to share that I had just won first place in the state programming competition, my mom barely nodded and said, "That's nice, sweetie." Then she turned right back to asking Ryan about his practice. Later, when Ryan got a full-ride soccer scholarship to the University of Texas, the whole house became a celebration. Relatives were invited over to congratulate him. When I got into the computer science program at the University of Portland with a partial scholarship, no one even mentioned it. After college, Ryan landed a job at a big bank in Dallas as a business analyst. It sounded impressive, though it was just an entry-level office job. My parents told the neighbors proudly, "Our son works in banking. He's got a bright future." As for me, I decided to launch a startup after graduation. I saved $5,000 from part-time jobs and an old laptop. The first 2 years were the hardest of my life. I worked 16 hours a day and slept in a small rented office that cost $1,200 a month. Even during the most challenging times, I never called home asking for money, not out of pride but because I knew exactly what they'd say. "I told you this startup nonsense was a waste of time. Just get an office job like Ryan. Play it safe." Then, 4 years ago, Ryan, who was 24 at the time, sent our parents $1,000 so they could buy a new TV. The moment they got the money, they called me, full of pride. "Ryan just sent us $1,000, my dad said. He said he wanted us to have a nice TV to watch." Then, as if twisting a knife, my mom added, "Why can't you be thoughtful like your brother? He's younger than you but knows how to care for his family." At that moment, desperate for recognition, I told her, "Next time you need something, just let me know. If I can help, I will." That sentence opened the door to what became 4 years of me supporting them financially. At first, it was small things every 2 or 3 months. Mom would text, "Sweetie, the fridge broke. Can I borrow $400? The following week, Dad would call, "I need new tires. Can you send 300? But then, 3 years ago, my dad had a work accident that left him unable to keep a full-time job. My mom messaged me, explaining their financial struggles. Dad's partial pension and her part-time job weren't enough to cover everything. So, from that point on, I started sending them $1,200 every month. Not because they asked, but I wanted to prove that I could care for them too. That I could be a good son just like Ryan. For 3 years straight, I sent $1,200 a month, over $43,000 in total. And in the end, they still told me not to come home for Christmas, because they were afraid I'd embarrass them. While I was still lost in the flood of memories, a message from my dad suddenly popped up on my phone. Just one line. "Remember what I said. Don't come home. Don't embarrass me." After reading that, I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even sad to the point of falling apart. This one feeling, clear, sharp, was settling in my chest. And that's when I made my first move. If they didn't need me, I didn't need to prove anything to them. If, in their eyes, Ryan was the golden child, then I no longer needed to fight for that spot, because no matter how hard I tried, it would never be enough. Right then, I opened my banking app. I scrolled down to the section for automatic payments, the one I had set up to transfer money to my parents every month. And without a second thought, I hit cancel. A second later, the confirmation screen came up. "Are you sure you want to cancel this recurring payment?" I tapped yes without hesitation. After that, I didn't say a word to them. I didn't need to. I knew they'd call me just a few days after Christmas, because I had set the transfers to go out on the 1st of every month. A week later, on Christmas Day, I decided to do something positive for myself. Instead of feeling sorry at home, I volunteered at a local soup kitchen. Portland has a lot of charitable organizations that stay active during the holidays, and I figured this would be a meaningful way to spend the day. From 2 p.m. to 7 p.m., I helped serve meals to people experiencing homelessness and to struggling families. There were touching stories and genuine smiles, and for the first time in a while, I felt like I was doing something that truly mattered. That evening, A post caught my eye as I got home and started mindlessly scrolling through social media. It was a photo from Miguel, my cousin, someone I rarely talk to. The whole family was smiling around the Christmas dinner table in the picture. My parents were sitting in the center, looking cheerful and relaxed. And in the right corner of the photo, I saw Ryan with his arm around Jessica. They looked genuinely happy. The caption Miguel wrote said, "Best Christmas ever. So great meeting Jessica. She's perfect for Ryan." No one in that photo looked sad or like they missed me. There wasn't a single empty seat that hinted at my absence. My parents were all smiles, Ryan and Jessica looked cozy, and the aunts and uncles looked at ease. And then, I knew I had made the right decision by cutting off the financial support. If, to them, I was nothing more than an ATM, if my presence only ever ruined the mood, then stopping both was the best thing I could have done. For them and myself. They could enjoy their gatherings without dealing with that computer guy who doesn't have a future. And I no longer had to play the role of the son who never felt good enough. A few seconds later, I turned off my phone, finished my cup of hot chocolate, and felt at peace on Christmas night for the first time in years. About a week after Christmas, just like I predicted, I got the first message from my mom. It had that same gentle tone she always used. "David, can you check again? It's the 2nd, and I still haven't received the money." I read the message, stared at the screen for a while, then set my phone down without replying. It wasn't because I wanted to be dramatic. It was because after everything, after hearing your presence would only bring shame to the family, the first thing they thought to reach out about was money. Not, "Are you okay?" Not even something as simple as, "Where did you spend Christmas this year?" The next day, my dad called me 3 times in a row. I didn't answer any of them. A few minutes later, he left a voicemail. I listened to it when I got home. His voice was short, impatient, just like it always had been. "David, why didn't you send the money? What's going on? Call me back now." That time, I decided to respond. Not with a call. Just a short text. I canceled the automatic payment. After sending it, I turned off my phone and went to bed. The next morning, when I turned it back on, I saw 45 missed calls from my dad and 12 messages from my mom. But I didn't call back. I didn't read a single message, because I already knew exactly why they were reaching out. The next afternoon, I got a call from Aunt Carol, my mom's older sister. The moment I saw her name on the screen, I had a feeling it wouldn't be a pleasant conversation. With a stern voice, she started in on me. "David, you didn't come home for Christmas, and now you've stopped sending money to your parents. Do you think that's the right thing to do?" I tried to stay calm and responded, "Auntie, there are reasons But she didn't let me finish. Her voice grew sharper as she cut me off. "Your mom came to my house yesterday in tears. She said she doesn't understand why her son would treat her like this." There was a pause. I heard her sigh heavily on the other end of the line. Then, with a tone full of disappointment, she said something that hit me hard. "David, I'm disappointed in you. I never thought I'd have a nephew so ungrateful. Your parents raised you, gave you everything, and now you turn your back on them." My face felt hot. I could feel the blood rushing up, but I kept my voice steady and tried to explain. "Auntie, I've supported them for years." She hung up on me right then. Maybe in that moment, she believed everything they had told her. That same evening, I couldn't sit still any longer. The feeling of being misunderstood, of being called ungrateful, kept eating away at me. I got in my car and drove 45 minutes to Aunt Carol's house in the suburbs of Dallas. When I rang the doorbell, she opened the door and saw me standing there. Her face turned cold in an instant. With a firm voice, she said, "David, go home. I don't want to talk to you anymore." Just as she was about to close the door, I said, "Auntie, please, just give me 10 minutes. There's something I need to show you." She paused, looking at me with suspicion. Then, reluctantly, she said, "Only 10 minutes." As soon as I stepped inside, I pulled out my phone and showed her the message from my dad. The words were clear on the screen. "Remember what I said. Don't come home. Don't embarrass me." Keeping my voice calm, I said, "This is why I didn't come for Christmas. Not because I'm cold or jealous of anyone." Aunt Carol's brows furrowed, and I saw her expression begin to shift. She took the phone from my hand and read the message carefully. Then, I opened my banking app and pulled up a complete transaction history. Each payment was listed, one after another, $1,200 every month, like clockwork, for 36 straight months. Total, $43,200. Aunt Carol stared at the screen, visibly stunned. She scrolled up and down, double-checking each line. Her voice trembled when she finally spoke. You've been sending this much? Why would your mom say? I cut in gently but firmly. What exactly did my mom tell you? Aunt Carol sank into the couch, clearly shaken. With a stunned look on her face, she began to explain. She told me you were jealous of Ryan, because he has such a successful girlfriend. She said that's why you didn't come home. And she told me you only ever sent $200 a month. I looked at her, unable to hide the pain in my voice. $200, Auntie? She nodded slowly, then added. She said once Ryan got together with Jessica, you got jealous and stopped even that small amount. Her voice trailed off into a whisper. 30 minutes later, after I had shared everything, every detail, every moment that led to this point, Aunt Carol stood up with a new look of determination. With a serious tone, she said, David, I owe you a sincere apology. I misjudged you. Now, please, let me take pictures of all this. I asked, what are you going to do with them? And with a firm, steady voice, she said, I'm going to send them to the rest of the family. They deserve to know the truth about who's been taking care of this family all these years. The next morning, Aunt Carol did precisely what she said she would. I didn't know what she wrote in the family group chat, but around 10 a.m., my phone started ringing nonstop. Dad's name came up first, then Mom, then Ryan. I didn't answer any of the calls. Around 3 p.m., Aunt Carol called. This time I picked up. There was a short pause on the other end. Then her voice came through, clear but no longer tense. David, I'm just calling to tell you something. I didn't say a word. I just waited. She continued slowly. Everyone on both sides of the family has seen everything. They're not defending your parents anymore. People are disappointed. I could hear her sigh heavily before she added. From now on, the family will keep some distance from them. As for you, I think it's time people know who you are. Not through your parents' stories, but through the truth. I didn't respond right away. I just sat there, quiet. Some of me had still hoped I wouldn't have to hear that. The truth that, for me to finally be seen for who I am, others had to step back from my parents. But I understood. Sometimes you must let old ties fade to clear your name. Just before hanging up, Aunt Carol said something I never expected to hear from her. I'm sorry, David. Truly sorry this time. 3 months passed by in complete peace. The company was growing faster than I had expected. First quarter revenue had jumped by 40% compared to last year. We officially opened our Seattle branch, bringing on 25 new employees. I decided to personally oversee the hiring process to ensure we maintained our standards. At the time, Linda Harper, our head of HR, was sorting through hundreds of applications. One day, she came into my office carrying a stack of carefully screened resumes. With her usual professional tone, Linda said, David, we've narrowed it down to 10 strong candidates for the sales manager position in Seattle. I'd like you to review them before we proceed with final interviews. As I flipped through the files, one name made my hand freeze. Ryan Martinez. I looked up at Linda, trying to keep my voice neutral. This candidate, does he know I run the company? Linda, still composed, shook her head. No. He applied through our website and was shortlisted by the recruiting team. Per standard procedure, we don't disclose executive leadership names until the final interview. I nodded and paused for a moment. Then I said, I'll handle this interview myself. Linda looked surprised, and understandably so. I rarely got directly involved in interviews at this level. Still, she gave a slight nod and said, Understood. The interview was scheduled for Tuesday at 2 p.m. in the main conference room. I was there with Linda and Jake, the team lead for the new Seattle branch. At precisely 2 o'clock, Ryan entered the room, wearing a navy blue suit. He looked confident and professional, smiling as he politely shook hands with Linda and Jake. I pushed the door open and stepped in as he sat in the interview chair. The moment our eyes met, the smile on Ryan's face froze completely. Maintaining her usual professionalism, Linda spoke up, Ryan, allow me to introduce the founder and head of TechFlow Solutions, David Martinez. Ryan sat still, frozen like a statue, his face drained of color. His lips parted, but nothing came out. It took nearly 10 seconds before he gathered himself. In a shaky voice, he stammered, David, I didn't know you were the founder of TechFlow Solutions. Ignoring the reaction, I spoke in a businesslike tone, Hello, Ryan. Let's begin the interview. What followed was 45 minutes of pure discomfort. Ryan stumbled through basic questions. When Linda asked about sales metrics and KPIs, he couldn't provide a concrete number. When Jake asked about customer management systems and retention strategies, Ryan gave only surface-level answers. It became clear he had exaggerated his experience on the resume. He had listed himself as a senior sales manager, but only held a junior sales role. Even the performance numbers he had included didn't match what he described during the interview. Finally, I asked the critical question. Ryan, as per our company policy, we have strict guidelines regarding conflict of interest when hiring family members. Do you understand what that means? Ryan swallowed hard. Sweat had soaked through his shirt. I understand. In my normal business tone, I explained, it means the bar is higher, not lower. We must uphold total fairness in the process. Do you have any questions? Ryan shook his head, unable to say anything else. Linda wrapped up the interview formally. Thank you for your time. We'll be in touch within a week. After Ryan left, the three of us stayed behind for the evaluation. Jake spoke first, blunt as ever. To be honest, he's not qualified for the role. Weak technical knowledge and his experience don't meet the position's demands. Linda nodded in agreement without hesitation. I sat silently for a few seconds before giving the final word. The decision is clear. We'll reject this application, following standard procedure. Linda responded right away. I'll send the official notice by email. Linda sent Ryan a standard rejection email 2 days after the interview. It read, "Thank you for your interest in TechFlow Solutions. After careful consideration, we have decided to move forward with other candidates whose qualifications more closely match the role's needs." I knew the fallout wouldn't stop with Ryan. And sure enough, that night, while I was at home watching Netflix, my phone started vibrating nonstop. Missed calls from my dad, Mom, and Ryan. I didn't pick up a single one. The next morning, a flood of messages came in. From Mom, "David, how could you embarrass Ryan like that? He's your brother." From Dad, "You better explain yourself. How could you be so heartless toward your own family?" From Ryan, "David, I needed that job. Please, I'm begging you to reconsider." I read every message. Then I deleted them all. No replies, but they didn't stop. Later that afternoon, while I was in a leadership meeting discussing our Q2 strategy, Linda knocked on the door and stepped in, looking a bit concerned. She said, "David, I just got a call from someone who identified as your father. He asked to meet you regarding Ryan's application." I answered immediately, "Linda, please let him know that all hiring decisions at TechFlow Solutions are based strictly on qualifications and company procedure. We do not discuss these decisions with anyone outside the organization, including applicants' family members." Linda nodded and did exactly as I asked. That evening, I sent them one final message, a group text to all three of them. Hiring decisions are based on professional qualifications, not family ties. Ryan did not meet the job requirements. This decision is final. Then I blocked all of their numbers. But I knew that wouldn't be the end of it. And I was right. After a long day at work that Friday, I got home and was stunned to see my parents standing outside my door. I knew this wasn't just a casual visit when I saw them. I opened the door and invited them in, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't want to have that conversation out in the open where the neighbors could hear. We sat in the living room. The glasses of water I set out remained untouched. My father spoke first. He was trying to stay composed. "David, we need to talk about Ryan." Before he could say more, my mother jumped in, her voice slightly trembling. "Ryan is hurting right now." I said nothing. I just sat there and listened, waiting to see where this was going, though I already had a feeling. And just like I expected, my father's tone shifted. He leaned forward and said more firmly, "You need to give Ryan a position at your company. Family helps each other." Right after that, my mom softened her voice as if she was being completely reasonable. "Ryan is capable. Just give him a chance, and he'll prove it." I looked at the two people sitting across from me, those who once told me I'd embarrass the family if I showed up for Christmas. They were sitting in the apartment I bought with my money, asking me to break company policy, all for the family's sake. Keeping my tone calm, I responded, "Ryan was interviewed just like every other candidate, and the result was that he didn't meet the qualifications for the position." Immediately, my dad snapped. "Qualifications? He's your brother. You run the damn company. You can hire whoever you want." At that moment, it hit me. They had no understanding of how a real business works. They thought being in charge meant I could do anything I pleased. I kept my patience and explained, I have a responsibility to over 150 employees and our shareholders. I can't hire someone unqualified just because he's family. My dad raised his voice. It's your company. You can do whatever you want. I shook my head. No, we have a board of directors. We have investors. We have strict processes and policies for a reason. And then my mom cut in. Just bend the rules this once, for the sake of family. After my explanation, my father stood up. He didn't yell like I expected. Instead, he spoke in a low, threatening voice. David, if you don't fix this, we'll handle it. Right then, my mother's tone changed entirely, too. Her voice turned cold. You think you can just forget your family now that you're successful? Have you forgotten what your father and I sacrificed for you? I could feel the conversation shifting into something painfully familiar. Guilt, emotional manipulation. With a firmer tone, I replied, I haven't forgotten anything, but business is business. I treated Ryan the same way I treat every other applicant. My father lost it after that. He shouted directly, if you don't give Ryan that job, we'll arrive at your office. We'll tell your employees what kind of person you are. The moment I heard that threat, I stood up, not out of anger, but because I realized this conversation had crossed a line. I walked to my bedroom, picked up my phone, and called 911. When the dispatcher answered, I said calmly, I need police assistance. 2 individuals refused to leave my property after being asked multiple times. I gave them my address. When I returned to the living room, my parents looked utterly shocked. In disbelief, my mother asked, You called the police on your parents? I nodded silently. I didn't say anything more. They stayed where they were, still thinking I was bluffing. 10 minutes later, 2 officers arrived. They were professional and respectful to everyone involved. After hearing both sides, they told me this was a civil matter. They advised that I could file for a restraining order if the harassment continued. Shortly after that, my parents were escorted out of my home by the police. Just before leaving, my father turned and said, David, you'll regret this decision. My mother sobbed, You've killed this family. The following week, I filed for an official restraining order. The process was straightforward. I submitted detailed documentation of all the threats and harassment, including their refusal to leave my property after being told multiple times. A judge granted a temporary restraining order, effective immediately. 6 months after everything that happened, my life has completely changed, for the better. The company has grown beyond expectations. We now have 180 employees. Our Seattle branch is thriving, and we're actively considering expansion into California. More importantly, our work environment is based on merit, mutual respect, and real support. We celebrate wins together and back each other up through tough times. As for Ryan, after that experience, he found a position at a smaller company in Austin. And my parents, I honestly don't know what they're doing now. The restraining order is still in effect. They're not allowed to contact me directly and cannot come near my home or workplace. I don't feel guilty about that decision. 2 months ago, something new started in my life. I began dating. Sarah, a graphic designer I met through a work project, understands the journey I've been through. She doesn't judge my past or the complexities of my family. She values the person I've grown into. And just 1 month ago, I launched a volunteer program for young entrepreneurs from complex family backgrounds. I share my story and offer guidance to those navigating similar challenges. Through it all, I've realized that family is not a reason to accept mistreatment. Love does not come with conditions or demands. And sometimes, the most powerful way to honor yourself is to know when to walk away. I didn't abandon my family. I set boundaries to protect my mental health and my values. And before I end this story, I want to ask you something. Was I wrong for filing a restraining order against my parents? Was I wrong for refusing to hire my brother despite the pressure from my family? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I genuinely want to hear from people who have faced similar situations. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe for more stories about family dynamics, personal growth, and the courage it takes to create healthy boundaries. Wishing you peace today.